Hello, everyone, and welcome to the It's Like You're Always Stuck in Second Gear session. This session and the title of the session really came from our mentors who have said to several of us that you just can't see that you're making a difference, or sometimes you don't feel like you're making a difference. And we've heard that off and on from mentors over the years. But we are very consistent in making sure that we are checking on our progress as a foundation and evaluating how we're doing in our programs. And so our foundation has set a goal to increase our college readiness for our students, to increase our college enrollment for our students, increase college persistence, and increase college success for our students. And all of our programs fall into one of those areas. So all of our programs are designed to help our students either get ready for college, enroll in college, persist in college, or complete college. And so we do an evaluation every year of our foundation and those programs to see how we're doing. And we wanted to be able to share some of the data with you from our last evaluation, which was completed in November of 2019. And it's almost time for our next evaluation, just so you can see how we're doing. And you can see some of the areas that we can move the needle to do better in. And so we could use your help in those areas. So anything you see typed in red on this presentation are areas that you can help us by encouraging students to do the things that we've put in red. But we do have a lot of good success and some things that we're doing. And so we wanted to share those things with you today. I can make it move. There we go. All right, so on college readiness, some of the things that we look at for college readiness, one of them is our students achieving the UNC admissions requirements. Back, and you can see all the way back to 2002 on this one, but we actually have data back to 1993, I think. In 1993, our students were completing UNC admissions requirements at 34%. And now when you look at it, and that was at East High School. So if you look at the red line, if we started at 34%, and in 2019, East High School was at around 85, 86%. That is over a 50% increase on their admissions requirement completion. And so that is a huge increase. And most of that is attributed to our mentors, because that is one of the things that you guys focus on when you're talking to students, is to ensure that they're completing those UNC admissions requirements. The UNC admissions requirements are our high school graduation requirements by Rutherford County Schools, along with 2 of the foreign languages, or world languages as they're called now. But they have to complete 2 consecutive classes in a world language. So that's do Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, French 1 and 2. Some kids do Latin 1 and 2. Some do sign language, which counts as a world language 1 and 2. So that's all they have to do is their graduation requirements plus those 2 foreign languages. So we want to make sure, you see in red, that one of the things you can do to help us continue to move this needle, because if they're not completing UNC admissions requirements, it's typically because they did not take the foreign languages. So we want you to encourage our students to enroll and take those foreign languages. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other things that affects for students. But we do have a lot of students who say, I don't have any need to take those, I'm not going on to college. Well, one of the things that I say for students, and we encourage them to take those languages, is that they don't know. So maybe their freshman year, they say they're not going to college. Maybe their sophomore year, they say they're not going to college. But we've had quite a few students who their senior year decide, oh, I really wish that I was ready to go to college. I want to go. So we want to make sure that they take those foreign languages. Usually they take them as a sophomore or junior, get them early, but that just gives them options when they graduate. So if they will go ahead and take those foreign languages, then they have options. They can go to a 4-year school, they can go to a 2-year school, they can go wherever they want to at that point, as long as they've done the things they're supposed to do. So we encourage that strongly. We hope that you'll encourage that. So when you're looking at students' transcripts or you're talking to them about their classes that they're taking, encourage them to take those 2 foreign languages. You can see these on this graph, it's gone up and down a little bit, but you can see it's been a steady increase. There's going to be some years where that goes down. There's going to be some years where it goes up. But as long as we're overall making that steady increase in the amount of students who are completing those UNC admissions requirements, then we're going to call that a success. But again, we could use your help in encouraging our students to continue to take those languages. Another thing that we look at for our students in college readiness is getting prepared for the SAT or ACT. Most schools do require that they take the SAT or ACT and achieve a certain score on that. Most schools do not have a cutoff score for these two tests, but they will compare those overall for all of the students that apply to their school. So it is important that our students take these tests and do well on these tests. In 2014, we started a program called Genius to help our students get prepared, because we knew our students weren't making the scores that they could make. And so we started this to help them prepare and to recognize them for doing well on these tests. Since then, we've had an increase in students taking the SAT of 8%. And last year we had the highest composite score ever on the SAT, and that would be their reading and math combined. And so they scored a 1041 out of, I think, 1,600 for those two scores. So that score is going up, and we know we can increase those scores, and we're increasing not only our students who are eligible to go to school, to go to college, but also our students who are eligible for more competitive scholarships and financial aid from schools. 97% of our students took the ACT in 2019, and that was because our juniors are able to take that for free, and they take it during the school day. 100% of our SCORE participants took the ACT in 2019, and those are our student athletes that our academic coaches work with. So we've had 100%. And out of the last 5 years, 4 of those years, we've had 100% of our SCORE students take the ACT. So that has been very good for our SCORE students. We know that they're getting those tests in and doing well on those. Since Genius started in 2014, our ACT composite, and this is the overall for all of our students who have taken the ACT, has increased from 17.4 to 18.1. That looks like it's a small increase, but when you consider that's all of our students overall of our schools that are taking this test, that increase on that test, the composite on that test, is a good success for our students. So some of the things that you can do to help us with our students is, one, encourage your students to use method test prep to prepare for the ACT and SAT. They have time. We have paid for that, so that is a free resource to all of our students that they have access to. It is on their computers. It is online. They have access to it at school and at home. And it's used to prepare for the ACT or SAT. It has lots of preparation tests, videos and things like that that they can use, and other kinds of activities they can do. But that is available for our students. And we have seen from various students that doing some of that preparation before a test for about 3 to 4 weeks before they take the test will make a significant change in their scores. So they need to use that resource. It is available to them, and they actually have time during their day. Now, right now the schedule's a little weird, but in their normal day, when they go to homeroom or their flex time, that is when they're supposed to be using method test prep. But they also can use it at home prior to taking those tests. So we would ask that you encourage them to use method test prep to get ready for the ACT or SAT to help increase their scores. We also ask that when you're working with juniors, when juniors take that test for free, it's usually the very end of February, the very 1st of March, that they take advantage of that, and they take that seriously, that they do that prep work before they take that test. It's a free test. It does count for colleges. It will be given during the school day, so they don't have to worry about transportation on the weekends. That you encourage them to take advantage of that test, to do the prep work before the test is given, and also during the test to really do their best on that test. And so that's something else you can do to help us to increase those scores. One of the other things that we look at for college readiness is our students who are ROPE eligible, because if they're ROPE eligible, then that means that they have met really the baseline requirements to go to one of the 4-year schools in the UNC system. So you can see on this graph, when we're talking about ROPE eligible, that means that a student has a 3.0 GPA and has met the UNC admissions requirements. So you can see on this graph, where we've been tracking since 2011, that we've sort of gone up and down on these things, but it has stayed steady pretty much. So you have some schools that have gone up and down, and again, you may have one year that's not so great, or you may have one year that's really great for students, our senior classes that have done the things they've needed to do. But again, you can see that we are looking at a general slow increase on the number of students who are ROPE eligible. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll apply for the ROPE award, because they still have to do the service learning, which is sort of sad when students don't do that, but they've done these other things. But we do want to make sure that we're tracking this to make sure our kids are meeting that 3.0 GPA and their UNC admissions requirements. And that again is where the foreign languages come in to play and are important piece of this, because if they don't take the foreign languages, then they're not meeting the UNC admissions requirements, which means they're not ROPE eligible. So it's very important that we encourage students to take those foreign languages. There's lots of different options for students to take, and so they should be able to find something that they like or are interested in, and it's important that we get those classes in there for our students. The other piece of that is to get students to complete their service learning. We just did letters for all of our potentially eligible seniors for this year. And we had done several letters for students who we thought might be eligible. We went back through and checked, and they hadn't taken their foreign languages. And I tore up letters for students that amounted to $160,000 in ROPE money that I basically just shredded. Because they had not taken their foreign languages. They had good GPAs. They actually had the SAT or ACT scores, but they did not take their foreign languages, so they were not ROPE eligible, and that was $160,000 lost to our students because they had not done that. Additionally, we have the same thing that happens with service learning. They may have done all the other things, but they didn't do their service learning, and so we're typically have about 30 kids that lose out on that. When you multiply 30 times $8,000, that's an additional $240,000 that we're throwing down the drain because students haven't done that last step to be eligible for ROPE. So those are the two things you can help with those students to help increase that ROPE eligibility. But you can still see that we're doing well, at least, or right around 50% of our senior classes are eligible for ROPE. And that's a pretty good percentage of students, to have half of your senior class eligible to achieve this scholarship. So we're pretty proud of those numbers. College access, which is our college enrollment. So we want to make sure our students have the things they need to do to be able to enroll in college. You can see we've tracked this again. We really started tracking in 2008. And so we have to start dropping some numbers off just for the size of the graphs. But you can see that at the top graph, college enrollment rates have stayed fairly steady, which is actually good because overall nationally they have decreased. So you see in 2012 that they've come down just a little bit, but they've stayed right there on a steady line. But we've had some decreases nationally due to some of the economic issues. This year we're probably going to see some decreases because of COVID and the effects of that. We don't have those numbers yet. This is through 2018 for these. But you can see all of our schools are hovering right there together. If you can see, the gray line is the one on the bottom because we're above that one. The gray line is our national average. The burgundy-ish line, which you can't really see, it's through the middle, is Rutherford County Schools as a whole. The red line is East High School, the yellow line is Chase High School, and the bright blue line is RS Central High School. And again, those schools have stayed fairly average with that. If you look at the second graph, this is our regular students, our non-ROPE students, and our ROPE students. And you can see the ROPE students are the green line. The black students are just Rutherford County Schools as a whole. That includes all of our students. And the red students are the non-ROPE students. You can see a huge difference in enrollment rates with ROPE versus non-ROPE students. So our ROPE students are much more likely to go to college. You'll see later, to succeed in college. So if they complete those ROPE steps, then they're much more likely to go to college than the students who are non-ROPE. And so we've been tracking that non-ROPE number because that's one of the groups that we're targeting with our GPS program, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is how we started seeing this data and realizing that we needed the GPS program, was by looking at this. But again, if you look at that ROPE number, it's incredibly high. And when you compare that to the gray line on the other graph of the national average, you can see that our ROPE number is incredibly high compared to the national average as well. So we know our rope students are in much better shape to be successful by enrolling and completing college. So some of the things you can do, again, to go back, is encourage the completion of the rope eligibility requirements. You can see that those students are much more likely to be successful. You can encourage their participation in college visits. And in a typical year, we do monthly college visits in person on school campuses, and they're free to students. They're juniors, for all the juniors. They just have to sign up. And we still have a lot of students who do not take advantage of that opportunity. But that's really important to get students out there and visiting colleges. So encourage your juniors to participate in college visits. We are doing those right now, but we're doing them virtually, of course. But it's still a live virtual college visit. So we have admissions counselors on there talking to students and answering questions. We do a live virtual tour, so we have people on there who can answer questions about what they're seeing on the tour. So even though it's virtual, we're trying to make the best of that. So encourage your students to take advantage of that. It's actually easier for them to take advantage of it because it is virtual, but encourage your students to take advantage of those college visits. Also, college application week is coming up. I think it's the week after after our mentor retreat. And so we are signing up seniors right now to participate in college application week. And that is a week where we really focus on helping them do their college applications. Most private colleges waive their application fees that week, and some of our public colleges accept fee waivers for application fees instead. So it's a very good week for students to apply. It's a national event, so we have colleges all over the country that are participating in that, but most of the North Carolina colleges participate in that. And so we've usually had a really big turnout for our seniors completing applications. We know that if seniors complete 4 or more applications, then they're most likely to be accepted and to be able to be enrolled in a school. And we are going to set up in-person assistance for seniors, so they will be able to come into the school and get an adult here that will help them complete that college application. So when you're talking to seniors, that will be something you can talk to them about to make sure that they're taking advantage of that opportunity to get in here and complete those applications. If they don't get them done during college application week, or you don't get in touch with them before a college application week, then please still encourage them to do those college applications and to reach out to us if they need assistance on that. All right, FAFSA completion, and you'll hear some more about FAFSA, but that's another thing that we track for students is their completion of FAFSA. We have someone in each of our schools that will help our students complete the FAFSA. And the FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. We have a lot of students who say, I'm not going to fill that out. I'm not eligible for the federal student aid. But the FAFSA is very important because it not only gets them, it's not only the application for federal student aid, but when students are not eligible for federal student aid, many times they become eligible for institutional funds. So that means the colleges have money that they can give to students, that they see which students don't already have money coming in, and then they can use their funds to supplement for students who are coming in that aren't eligible for the federal student aid. So for example, as isothermal, for students who want to participate in the Power Scholarship, they have to complete the FAFSA because the FAFSA is their application to get money through the Power Scholarship. So it's one of those things that's very important for all of our students who are planning to attend either a 2-year or 4-year school. They need to complete the FAFSA. And so we have been doing a lot of pushes on this to try to educate our students on the importance of completing the FAFSA and making sure they're getting that done. One of the things that you need to know on the FAFSA is that students who complete the FAFSA are 84% more likely to enroll in college. That's a huge number. And so we want to make sure that we're getting these students to complete the FAFSA. We're completing at 66%, but they're 84% more likely to enroll. So we want to make sure we're getting our students to do that. We did a really big push this last year to get them done early. The FAFSA opens on October 1st. Yesterday when I was recording this. So October 1st is when the FAFSA opens. It stays open through the next summer. for students to complete, but it's very important for them to get it done early. And definitely we want students to complete it before March 1st, because March 1st is a priority deadline for most schools. And that is when they determine who receives their institutional funds. And so if students complete FAFSA after March 1st, they may not be eligible for institutional funds. So we want to make sure our students complete them between October 1st and March 1st. They can contact the school, contact either Carol, Arnett, or Celine, or our Davidson advisors at the schools to also help them with those things. So that is something that you also can push our seniors to make sure they're getting the FAFSA completed. You can see by our data here that in 2018 and 19, we were above, significantly above North Carolina's average and the United States average for FAFSA completion. So we're pretty proud of those numbers. The other thing we're pretty proud of that doesn't show up here, but I've been keeping an eye on, is that last year in 2020 for FAFSA completion, we did a really big push in the fall for students to get the FAFSA done by January 31st. And we did a hot chocolate bar for all students that got it completed, which was a pretty big hit for our students. But we had a good number of students that completed by the end of January. Well, then COVID hit. And so for most places, they really struggled because they didn't start early like we did. And so their FAFSA numbers are very low. And we actually had some of our highest rates than we've had in a really long time. So while those don't show on right here, because of that push and that early push that we did, our FAFSA completion rates are still, I think they're actually higher than the ones you see on this chart. And they're definitely going to be higher than the ones, the North Carolina national average, because we started early and we got most of it done before COVID hit and everyone went home for many months. So we're excited about that. And I just want you to know that we do this big push, but you can help us with that by talking to seniors about the importance of completing the FAFSA. All right, and persistence is another thing that we're looking at for our seniors or for our college students. And this is one of the things that we've really started focusing on with our GPS program, which is Go, Persist, Succeed. And we're really focusing on our college students, and we're really focused on our students who are non-ROPE students, even though we're also helping our ROPE students. So persistence is the percentage of students who return from year 1 to year 2. So we're looking at students hoping that they're not dropping out between year 1 and year 2. So what you're looking at on this sheet or on these graphs is the GPS persistence. So in 2016, we had identified that our non-ROPE students were not persisting in completing college. And so we were trying to, even though we had good numbers of students enrolling in school, they were dropping out. And so that was a huge concern for us, that we'd put all this investment into them, and they'd put all this investment in, and we're not getting that return on their investment by completing and being successful in college. So we started a research project where we were tracking our students, and you can see that the light blue is our treatment group and the dark blue is our control group. And the control group were the students who did not get any services from us to help them complete and be successful in college. And the light blue are the students that we were working with actively trying to help be successful in college. So when you look at 2018, it really actually does not look too great, because the treatment group the control group looked like they were outperforming at most of the schools, and they were persisting at higher rates than our treatment group. One thing to know is that we actually had more students in the control group that enrolled in college right after high school. So those numbers were already a little bit different. But you can see that for right there, it doesn't look like the GPS program is making that much difference. However, when you look at 2019, which is several years out, what you start to see is that our persistence for our GPS students starts to outperform our persistence. So what we're seeing when you look at the blue, the dark blue, is that they're having more dropouts in the control group that are not getting services from our GPS coordinator, and our treatment group who are getting those services are persisting at greater rates. So we are very excited about this data, even though it didn't look so great in 2018, because we're starting to see that difference in that the services that we're providing for those students, that is starting to make that difference, and that they're staying in school and hopefully working towards that degree and being more successful than those students who are not getting services from our GPS coordinator. So we are excited about that. And we've got some other good data that's coming from that program, and we're seeing success from that program. This is the other piece of it that we were very excited about in 2019, where we're already seeing that our students are persisting at greater rates. In 2019, we actually saw a much smaller incremental increase in our dropouts, which was great. But we also saw at East Rutherford that we actually had a decrease in our dropout rate, which was never happened before, because we had students that returned to school. So part of what we're doing is trying to keep our students in school, but the other part of what we're doing is trying to find those students who have stopped out and helping them get back in to school and complete their degree. So you will see that in 2019, we actually had a much higher rate in our treatment group of students who actually re-enrolled in their college program after they had a stop out. So we're excited about that not not only are we increasing our persistence rate, but we're also increasing the number of students who are coming back to school after they had stopped out or dropped out. So we're seeing some good success with that GPS program, and we're excited about that. And we're also starting to track our mentor program with our GPS, because after this group, this is a group that started in 2016, but in 2019 is when we started the mentor program for our GPS students. And so we are excited to see what kind of difference maybe that has made where they're having that mentor that we know from the program that you guys are working with has been so successful with our high school students. We're hoping to see that similar success with our college students and our mentor program there. So soon you will be able to see data from that and to see what that mentor program is doing. So college success, and this is where you will see some of the things that had us concerned that we started working on, and see how we're using data to improve our programs and target our programs at students. In 2012, which is about when we started noticing that we needed the GPS program, you can see this is a very, I guess it's a busy graph, but it has a lot of information. You can see this is Rutherford County Schools, and this is ROPE students. So this includes everybody, and this includes just ROPE. So the light blue are the number of students enrolled. So this is the students who were enrolled right after high school. So you can see our ROPE students enrolled at 95%, where our general population enrolled at 69%. Okay, so then you start to see the dropouts that happen. So you see that, the next year we only had 57%, then it goes down to 40-some%. And so we start seeing dropouts. Some of that is because we had some graduation, but some of that is our not enrolled. So the red line are the students who were not enrolled. So where we started with only 30% not enrolled, we end up with 54% not enrolled. So you can see that we've dropped over 20% of our students who enrolled dropped out. So that is something that was concerning to us that we wanted to address. Where here for our ROPE students, there's still some dropouts, but it's not as significant as it is over here. So our ROPE students are still persisting and succeeding at a much higher rate. And so where our graduation, which is the dark blue line, the graduation rate for Rutherford County Schools is at 39%, which is pretty low for college completion. For our ROPE students is at 80%, which is really high for college completion. So that is a significant difference. And so that's where GPS came from, is we're trying to figure out where that 50% difference is and who are those students and how can we help those students. And you can see their dropout rate is much lower. So for GPS, when you look at that, you can see the same graph, but this started in 2016. And so what we're looking at here is our treatment group and our control group. So you can see that GPS enrollment rates by year 3. In year 1, we actually had less students that enrolled in the treatment group than we did the control group. But by year 3, we have more students enrolled in the treatment group than the control group. So you're starting to see this number go up and this number is going down a little bit. And so this is good, because this is what we want to see, is some improvement here. The graduation rate is actually about equal for the two groups, which is good. And then the GPS not enrolled rate is lower here. So there's the 62% not enrolled, and here there's 61%. So it's not significantly different, but there is a difference there, and we're starting to see that difference. So hopefully we're going to see this go down, and this one will continue to go up. But we're going to see that treatment making that difference for our students. So anyway, that was just the one thing that we wanted to be able to show you how we're using data, how we're seeing success for our students, where you can help us with these things to help our students be more successful. And while you're not working with the students that are in college, the things we're doing before they leave high school are affecting their success in college. For example, being RAPE eligible and those kinds of things, completing the FAFSA in high school, and just creating those good habits in high school. So the things you're talking to them about in high school are making this difference here later on. So we want you to help us in high school set those good habits and those good standards for our students. But we also wanted you to see how we're able to use this data to figure out what we need to do either while they're in high school or after they leave high school to help our students be successful. So if you have any questions about any of that data, please feel free to contact me. I will be glad to talk to you about that. As we get more information, we hope to share it. This year's evaluation plan is going to be done in the spring so that we have our college information up to date at that point. So we'll be able to see the effect the COVID has had on our college enrollment and persistence. But we'll have more of that information by the time we do our evaluation plan. So we will be excited to share that information with you in the spring once we have it. We will also be looking more at students who are successful in college and the types of programs that they were involved with in high school, which will give us a good idea of the programs that are being very effective and some of the programs we might need to make some changes in, or we may need some additional programs to help our students be successful. So stay tuned and we'll give you more information as we get more information on those things. Thank you for attending this session. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.